Welcome friends to this course on understanding F studies drama. We are in week 6 and this is going to be lecture number 3. Today we'll discuss Sartre's play No Exit. Jean-Paul Sartre was a very famous French philosopher, playwright, novelist and political activist. He was born on June 21, 1905 in Paris. He lost his father at an early age and was raised by his mother and grandfather. He is most famous for his existentialist philosophy, which suggested that humans are not born with predetermined purposes or essences. Instead, as he famously stated, existence precedes essence, meaning individuals must define themselves through their actions. His major philosophical works include Being and Nothingness, Existentialism is a Humanism, Critique of Dialectical Reason. Sartre's literary works also serve as vehicles for his philosophical ideas. His novel Nausea depicts a protagonist overwhelmed by absurdity of existence. His trilogy, The Roads to Freedom, examines moral and political dilemmas. Here we are concerned with his plays such as No Exit, The Flies, Dirty Hands. Sartre died on April 15, 1980 in Paris, leaving behind a body of work that continues to challenge and inspire. No Exit was one of the most important plays that Sartre wrote. It was performed in the year 1944. The play dramatizes the story of three characters who find themselves together in a room which resembles a hotel. These three characters, Garcin, Inez and Stael, find themselves locked in a small, sparsely furnished room, which they soon realize is hell. Expecting physical torture, they are instantly confronted with psychological torment as they are forced to face the truth about themselves through judgments and perceptions of others. Garcin is a journalist who seeks validation as a man of courage. Inez, who was a postal clerk, is manipulative and revels in making others uncomfortable. Estelle, a wealthy socialite, is vain and refuses to acknowledge her moral failings, including infidelity and infanticide. The play begins with Garcin entering the room. He is accompanied by a valet. Garcin says, "So here we are." Valet says, "Yes, Mr. Garcin." Garcin says, "This is what it looks like." Valet says, "Yes." Garcin says, "Second Empire furniture I observe. Well, I dare say one gets used to it in time." Valet says, "Some do, some don't." Garcin says, "Are all the rooms like this one?" Valet says, "How could they be? We cater for all sorts, Chinamen and Indians, for instance. What use would they have for a Second Empire chair?" You can see that Garcin is in hell and the room of the hell is like a hotel. Don't you think it is very funny? The kind of imagination we have regarding hell that we have learned from Dante in the West and from Garud Puran in India. It is a place where we are tortured for our sins. Sartre's hell is unlike Dante's hell or hell of Garud Puran. There are no instruments of torture, and because of that, Garcin is surprised. Garcin says, "Quite so, but I say, where are the instruments of torture?" Valet says, "What?" Garcin says, "The racks and red-hot pincers and all the other paraphernalia." Garcin says, "My little joke. Oh, I see. No, I was not joking. No mirrors I noticed, no windows, only to be expected. And nothing breakable, but damn it all, they might have left me my toothbrush." Valet says, "That's good. So, you have not yet got over your what to do you call it, sense of human dignity? Excuse my smiling." Garcin says, "I'll ask you to be more polite. I quite realize the position I am in, but I won't tolerate." Valet says, "Sorry, no offense meant, but all our guests ask me the same questions. Silly questions. If you will pardon my saying so. Where is the torture chamber? That is my first thing they ask all of them. They don't bother their heads about bathroom requisites, that I can assure you, but after a bit, when they have got their nerve back, they start in about their toothbrushes and what not. Good heavens, Mr. Garcin, can't you use your brains? what I ask you would be the point of brushing your teeth. The conversation between Valet and Garcin is funny. Garcin is dead. Still, he wants to brush his teeth. Valet says, what is the point of brushing your teeth after you are dead? Death is an end to all our desires. Death is an end to all our illusions. Further, Garcin is more shocked by the absence of the instruments of torture. If it is hell, and if Garcin has sinned and is being punished and has been sent to hell, he must be tortured. That's what he imagines. When he finds out that there are no torturers, he is surprised. In the play, hell is explored in a radically existential way. The play subverts traditional ideas of hell as a place of physical torture or divine punishment. Instead, it presents hell as a psychological and interpersonal experience. The absence of any physical torture in the play underscores his existentialist philosophy, which posits that humans are condemned to be free. This condemnation refers to the fact that individuals are responsible for their choices and are continuously confronted with the consequences of those choices. The character's eternal punishment is not the physical torture, it is their awareness of themselves as seen through the eyes of others. Although Garcin says there are no mirrors in the room, yet Garcin has forgotten that there are two women waiting for him in the room who will work as his mirrors. These two women are Inez and Stale. Let us examine their conversation to find out more about them. Inez says, "You are very pretty. I wish we had some flowers to welcome you with." Stale says, "Flowers? Yes, I love flowers. Only they would fade so quickly here, would not they? It is so stuffy. Oh well, the great thing is to keep as cheerful as we can. Don't you agree? Of course, you too are." Inez says, "Yes, last week. What about you?" Stale says, "I'm quite recent. Yesterday." As a matter of fact, the ceremony is not quite over. The wind is blowing. My sisters wail all over the place. She is trying her best to cry. "Come, dear, make another effort. That's better. 2 tears. 2 little tears are twinkling under the black veil. Oh dear, what a sight Olga looks this morning. She is holding my sister's arm, helping her along. She is not crying, and I don't blame her. Tears always mess one's face up, don't they? Olga was my bosom friend, you know." As you already know, Stale is vain. She is pretentious, and she is more bothered about why people are not crying over her death than about death. She wants to see people shedding their tears on her death. When her best friend does not shed tears, perhaps she becomes upset. Through Stale, Sartre wants to highlight the futility of human life. While we are living, we have this illusion that when we would depart from this world, people will cry, they will mourn for us. However, the fact of life is oblivion. People will forget us easily. Even the people who love you the most, they will also forget you with the passage of time. This is what exactly which has happened with Stale. Her friend is unable to shed even tears. Stale cannot figure out why has she been sent to hell. She thinks she has been a good person. There must have been some part on the part of the judge who punished her and sent her to hell. She informs Stale, "That's just it. I haven't a notion, not the foggiest. In fact, I am wondering if there has not been some ghastly mistake. Don't smile. Just think of the number of people who become absentees every day. There must be thousands and thousands, and probably they are sorted out by understrappers. You know what I mean? Stupid employees who don't know their job. So they are bound to make mistakes sometimes. Do stop smiling. Why don't you speak? If they made a mistake in my case, they may have done the same about you, and you too. Anyhow, isn't it better to think we have got here by mistake?" Even after her death, Stale has not overcome her bad faith. While she was living, she lived with illusions. She tried to deceive herself and deceive others. Even after her death, she thinks her being sent to hell is a mistake of some stupid employee who did not know how to do his or her job properly. Stale is not an authentic being. Fakery is her strength. Her fakery is evident in her constant performance of femininity and charm, especially when she interacts with Garshan. She plays the role of the seductive woman in order to maintain her identity. In her life before her death, Stale had many lovers and she relied on their admiration to feel valuable. However, after death, she is trapped in a room with two people who refuse to provide her with the validation she craves, forcing her to confront the emptiness of her existence. Her crying and emotional outbursts, while seeming genuine, are a form of bad faith, a self deceptive attempt to avoid acknowledging her guilt. Sartre uses Stale as a character to exemplify how human beings wear a mask, how they fake before others, and how they refuse to confront the consequence of their own choices. While Garcin, Inage, and Stale try to find out from each other why they have been sent to hell, they tell lies to each other. They tell fake stories about each other. Stale says, "What else should I tell? I have nothing to hide. I lost my parents when I was a kid, and I had my young brother to bring up. We were terribly poor, and when an old friend of my people asked me to marry him, I said yes. He was very well off and quite nice. My brother was a very delicate child and needed all sorts of attention. So really, that was the right thing for me to do. Don't you agree? My husband was old enough to be my father, but for 6 years, we had a happy married life. Then 2 years ago, I met the man I was fated to love. We knew it the moment we set eyes on each other. He asked me to run away with him and I refused. Then I got pneumonia and it finished me. That is the whole story, no doubt by certain standards. I did wrong to sacrifice my youth to a man nearly 3 times my age. Do you think that could be called a sin?" Of course, we know the story that she is telling is a lie. It is just an attempt to seek sympathies of Garcin and Inage. She is self-pitying so that others can also pity her. She has committed infidelity and also infanticide. For that she has been punished. Although here she says she was punished because she committed the sin of marrying a man who was lot older than her. Estelle lies primarily as a mechanism of self-deception. Her lies serve as a way to maintain her carefully constructed sense of self based on external validation. Her lies are a defense mechanism. She tells these lies to control how others perceive her. In the play, particularly Garcin, she wants Garcin to see her as an idealized, innocent woman, a role she has constructed for herself over the years. Like Stale, Garcin is also a liar. He wants to be recognized as a courageous man, although in reality he was a coward. The story he initially tells to Stale goes like this. He says, "Wait a bit. I ran a pacifist newspaper. Then war broke out. What was I to do? Everyone was watching me, wondering, will he dare? Well, I dared. I folded my arms and they shot me. Had I done anything wrong?" Like central flaw of Stale is vanity, the central flaw of Garcin is cowardice. Garcin cannot tolerate that people consider him a coward. He wants to emerge. He wants to come out as a hero in the eyes of others, which he has not been able to do in reality. And that's why he constructs this fake narrative of being shot in his chest. Garcin was a journalist. He deserted his country, leaving behind his wife and the people who depended on him, and ultimately chose to escape the war rather than face his moral duty. Garcin lies to himself about his courage and justifies his actions by claiming that he was trying to survive, yet deep down he knows he is a coward. Both through Garcin and Stale, Sartre is dramatizing his philosophical concept of bad faith. How human beings deceive themselves. They imagine what they want to be, which they cannot be, and how they live with those illusory conceptions. Although Inez is not absolutely free from bad faith, yet she wants to understand and confront the truth of her life. She is aware that she has been sent to hell because she is perhaps a criminal or a murderer. She says, "Yes, I see. Look here. What is the point of play acting? Try to throw dust in each other's eyes? We are all tarred with the same brush." Stale says, "How dare you?" And he says, "Yes, we are criminals, murderers, all three of us. We are in hell, my pets. They never make mistakes, and people are not damned for nothing." Inez says further, "A damned soul, that's you, my little plaster saint, and ditto our friend there, the noble pacifist. We have had our hour of pleasure, haven't it? There have been people who burned their lives out for our sakes, and we chuckled over it, so now we have to play the reckoning." So Inez is fully conscious that all three of them are in hell because they have committed some crime or performed some sin. They are in hell because they deserve that hell. The punishment cannot be fake. In fact, they are faking some other lives which they wanted to live but they could not live. Inez calls both Stale and Garcin plaster saints. Saints because they idealize themselves as saints, as extremely, absolutely good human beings, which they are not. As the play progresses, we come to realize that all the characters try to draw attention of each other. They start seeking validation of each other. They start desiring the recognition of each other. Initially, we encounter Inez seeking Stale's attention. Inez says, "I have your test, my dear, because I like you so much. Look at me, no straight. Now smile. I'm not so ugly either. Am I not nicer than your glass?" Stale says, "Oh, I don't know. You scare me rather. My reflection in the glass never did that. Of course, I knew it so well. Like something I had tamed. I'm going to smile and my smile will sink down into your pupils. And heaven knows what it will become." Inez says, "Why should not you tame me? Listen, I want you to call me Inez. We must be great friends." Inez says, "There, you know the way the cat larks with a mirror? I'm your lark mirror, my dear, and you cannot escape me. There is not any pimple, not a trace of one. So what about it? Suppose the mirror started telling lies. Suppose I covered my eyes as he is doing and refused to look at you. All that loveliness of yours would be wasted on the desert air. No, don't be afraid. I can't help looking at you. I shall not turn my eyes away. I'll be nice to you, ever so nice. Only you must be nice to me too." So Inez wants recognition from Stale. Without Stale's recognition, her life would be miserable. However, she says she will work as Stale's mirror, which will give her a sense of self-worth. In No Exit, mirror plays a significant symbolic role, especially in relation to the character's self-perception and their attempts at self-deception. The mirror in the play is not a literal physical object but serves as a metaphor for how the characters perceive themselves, often in distorted ways. Here, Sartre uses mirror as a device to reflect the inner truth of each character. The mirror symbolizes the illusion of self that characters try to maintain. In No Exit, the mirror symbolizes the eternal prison of self-perception. However, while reading this conversation between Inez and Stale, we have to remember that other human beings are the mirror for the self. Stale is Inez's mirror and Inez is Stale's mirror. What if Inez tells lies about Stale? What will happen to the self-worth of Stale? What will happen to the self-perception of Stale? And vice versa. Both Inez and Stale, they cannot avoid the gaze of each other. They are trapped in each other's eyes. What they think of themselves will depend upon how the other perceives them. Soon after, when Inez fails in establishing a reciprocal relationship with Stale, she starts a conversation with Garson. Garson is also polite and good to Inez. Garson says, I'll give you all the time that is needed. Inez says, yes, we have lots of time in hand all time. Garson says, listen, each man has an aim in life, a leading motive. That's so, isn't it? Well, I did not give a damn for wealth or for love. I aimed at being a real man, a tough, as they say. I staked everything on the same horse. Can one possibly be a coward when one's deliberately courted danger at every turn? And can a judge a life by a single action? Inez says, why not? For 30 years, you dreamt you were a hero and condoned 1,000 petty lapses, because a hero, of course, can do no wrong. An easy method, obviously. Then a day came when you were up against it, the red light of real danger, and you took the train to Mexico. Garson says, I dreamt, you say? It was no dream. When I chose the hardest path, I made my choice deliberately. A man is what he wills himself to be. Apparently, Garson wants from Inez what Inez had previously wanted from Stale, that is recognition. Garson wants validation of Inez or Stale, it does not matter. Without this validation, Garson cannot survive. Garson wanted to become a hero in his past life because this is how people wanted to look at him, because this is how people felt good about him. However, Garson could not become a hero. He could not become a hero because he was a man, therefore coward. However, Garson also echoes Sartrean philosophy when he says a man can become what he wills. Garson had a choice. At that crucial moment, he could have decided to become a hero, which he did not. He deserted his country, he deserted his wife, and therefore he became a coward. Garson and Sartre clearly suggest that human beings are the byproducts of the choices that they make. A human being has potential to become anything he or she likes to be. If a man wills to be a good man, he can become a good man. If a man wills to be an evil man, he can become an evil man. Here, Sartre presents freedom of will as both a gift and curse. The characters are free to choose, but this freedom is the source of their eternal torment. They cannot escape the consequences of their choices because they are not judged by others, but also perpetually judging themselves. Sartre's description of freedom suggests that while human beings are free to choose, they must live with the consequences of those choices for eternity, and that is both the torment and the truth of existence. Garson is unhappy that he did not have enough time on the earth. He died too young. Garson says, I died too soon. I was not allowed time to do my deeds. Inez says, one always dies too soon or too late, and yet one's whole life is complete at that moment, with a line drawn neatly under it, ready for summing up. You are your life and nothing else. Sartre, through Inez, clearly suggests his philosophy of life. Although human beings constantly regret about their past, they suggest that they could have been this, they could have been that, they could have done something greater in their life, their circumstances were not in their favor, so on and so forth. Yet, they fail to understand that they are what they have become. There is no point in regretting about what they could have become and they could not be. Life is what we have become. Life is what we are. There is nothing more about it, as Inez rightly suggests. Our lives become complete the moment we die. Whether we have accomplished what we wanted to accomplish or not becomes immaterial. Death is the fulfillment of human life. It is the end of life, its aspirations, desires, and also the end of regrets and guilts. By the end of the play, it becomes evident that the place is hell and there are no torturers there because they are not required. The three people locked in one room, they have become each other's torturer. Garcin would torture Stale and Inez. Inez would torture Garcin and Stale. Stale would torture Garcin and Inez. What Sartre says? Through Garcin, Sartre suggests this bronze, yes, now is the moment. I am looking at this thing on the mantelpiece and I understand that I am in hell. I tell you, everything has been thought out beforehand. They knew I would stand at the fireplace, stroking this thing of bronze with all those eyes intent on me, devouring me. What? Only two of you? I thought there were more, many more. So this is hell. I would have never have believed it. You remember all we were told about the torture chambers, the fire and the brimstone, the burning marl, old wives' tales. There is no need for red hot pokers. Hell is other people. Garcin speaks the profound truth of human life. Hell is not somewhere else. Hell is here on this earth. Sartre says that hell is created and constituted by the other. That other can be anyone. It can be your father, it can be your mother, it can be your brother, sister, husband, wife, daughter, son. In fact, we suffer mostly because of the people with whom we are in love or because of the people who are in love with us. At the core of this philosophy of hell is other people is Sartre's idea of the gauge or look of the other. Sartre argues that our self-identity is not something we can fully define for ourselves in isolation. Instead, it is heavily influenced by how others perceive us. This external gaze is objectifying. It turns us into objects in the eyes of others rather than allowing us to remain subjects in control of our own being. Sartre argues that this leads to the objectification of the self. The idea also highlights the tension between individual freedom and society we inhabit. While we are free to create our own meaning and identity with, we are also interdependent with others. The judgment and expectations of others act as a limiting force that not only confines one's self-expression but also forces one to wrestle with one's own sense of guilt and responsibility. In other words, hell is other people is a metaphor of human condition. We are hell for each other. I am your hell and you are my hell. You objectify me, I objectify you. And because of this objectification, we are deprived of our individuality and freedom. Sartre's play is about freedom and responsibility. It suggests that human beings are free. As Sartre famously says, condemned to be free. As individuals, they are free to make their own choices, but must also bear the responsibility of those choices. The play dramatizes Sartrean philosophy of bad faith, where characters constantly deceive themselves and deceive others instead of trying to lead authentic lives. They don't want to accept their true selves and create waves of illusions around themselves. The play also explores existential angst and alienation these characters experience. It dramatizes how helpless, restless, and anxious these three characters are. The play also stages Sartre's famous concept of the look, which appears in several of his plays, where individuals are conscious of being observed by others, leading to self objectification and conflict. Sartre's theatre is existential theatre. It is a reflection upon the meaning of life, meaning of existence. It discusses the issues of freedom, responsibility, and the absence of God from the human world. Although Sartre was not directly associated with the theatre of the absurd, yet his plays and philosophical works deeply influenced absurdist playwrights. There is no doubt that Sartre's theatre is philosophical theatre. All his major philosophical concepts are dramatized in theatrical form. Sartre used his theatre as a medium to explore his philosophical concepts, and his plays beautifully dramatized the problems of human existence. That's all for today. We'll meet in our next class. Thank you.